We are so excited to be back here at PIMpoint. We've been here last year. I was in Chicago as well. It's a great community that inriver had collected here. I think we're all passionate about product information and great buying experiences. But for this session, we will look at product information from a different angle. Usually most of it is text-based. What we'll look at is now the visual experience that we provide to customers. And we will do it especially with the context of 3D. 3D is really becoming, we see in many of our customers, the new normal. It has a potential to really impact every stage of your product journey, from the way you design products, manufacturing, but also especially into the way that your customers experience your products and make buying decisions. So we will take you through that journey, and let's kick it off. So just a short introduction first. As it was said, DigiSuite is maybe the most well-known brand in this audience. I've had the opportunity to speak to many customers today and also many partners. So we have a lot of mutual customers and partners with inriver, and I'm very proud to sponsor as a global sponsor this year. If you're not familiar with digital asset management, it's really the process of managing rich media content and making it available on any channel, e-commerce, social media, and wherever it's used. Last year, we merged with KeyShot and extremely excited about that. It's very likely that at least 50% of the customers in here is actually using KeyShot in your company. It's probably also very unlikely that you would know about it. That's at least our experience. But if you look around, it's very likely that it's actually a technology that's already used. It's used by many, many brands to design and create visual experiences for during the design process. But what we're talking about here is also using it as the photorealistic rendering engine to really create crisp and great product experience, both on a 2D and 3D level. And Jan will speak a lot more about that and will showcase a lot of different brands. Just a quick introduction. The two companies, the joint vision that we set out together is really to reinventing the way that products are brought to market. And when we look at what's happened over the last, let's say, 2 decades, the way that we experience products in our buying process, in the digital shelf, through screens, online media, really have changed significantly. It obviously kick-started through COVID, as everybody was home buying stuff there. But the underlying processes is for many organizations hasn't changed that much. It's often, I would love to speak to you about it afterwards, obviously, but it's very often what we see, it's relying on photography processes, it's relying on post-production processes for video or photography. And what we would like to share with you is really a different avenue, a different digital pipeline to automate and reinvent this process. It has the opportunity to really decrease cost, bring products faster to market, but also to create more rich and good product experiences in the digital shelf. So that's the journey for today. And first we'll start with showcasing a little bit about how we can use this for really reducing cost and saving time. So over to you, Jan.
Thank you very much, Kim. Exactly. Let's take a look at how to reduce costs, time, and go to market faster. And we're going to really get down to business because we're going to take you through 4 of our customers. We're going to show you hard numbers, and we're going to show you the visuals, and we're going to explain how all of that makes sense. This is Speedo, a company that you almost certainly have heard of. They were able to speed up their approval process by 4 months. Just thinking about that, right? This talk is called The Transformative Power of 3D. That is not an iteration, it's not a small improvement. You can also read the other numbers, I'm going to talk about them in a moment. This is transformative. 4 months less time spent in approving prototypes through the use of 3D. How does that make sense? How does that work? Well, it turns out with 3D, you can review, you can approve, you can communicate way earlier in your process. So you know how you go through different product iterations until you can go to market? Well, think about it like physical mail versus email, for example, right? How much faster is the digital variant instead of waiting around, right? That's how you can do that. Also, if you're gonna have to fail, fail fast, right? I'm sure everybody has heard that, fail fast. It's a very good idea if you're going to have to fail. With 3D, you don't have to wait for that prototype to come to you, to be manufactured, to be sent to you, until you discover that mistake. You can do it right there. We're gonna show you how here, right? 70% decreased tooling costs. Again, you don't need to make all of those prototypes physically. You can save 70%, or at least Speedo has been able to save 70% in that. Not to mention that with 3D, what's really cool is these days you can create incredibly stunning imagery right from the 3D asset that does not exist in real life yet. So $500,000, it's a nice amount of money to save on your photo shoot budgets. There's much more to this story, but I'm going to get to that in a moment. Let's go to Razer. They're really big in the US. Not sure how many people here have heard of the company. They make scooters, mobility toys for kids. This is all in 3D, right? This is when I just said you can create stunning imagery. This is an example. We're going to see a lot more, but this is the stuff you can do today. There's another story for Razer. So their headquarters is in LA, and their lead designer, Derek Morano, I was really fortunate to be able to talk to him as a product manager for KeyShot. That was really cool to talk to him. He is behind all of this at Razer, right? And he told me a wonderful story I want to share with you here today. They did a relaunch of this scooter. All they had to do after they got some feedback is the rear fender, that's the shape across the wheel in the back, that needed to be tweaked. This took him 5 minutes in CAD, right? It was a really simple change. But if they had not embraced 3D, they essentially now would have had to start over, right? New photos, new videos, new updated marketing material. Everything has to be done again because of a 5-minute change. Well, they didn't have to do that, right? Because the way it works is you make a 5-minute change in CAD, and it automatically translates into your product, right? Your CAD drawing into the rendering software that generates your images for you. So we literally leave that computer running overnight. Next morning, everything is updated with the new shape. It's not just that that's fast. It's also that that avoids errors. And this happens. In the real world, that happens. You send out packaging with the second to last version of the product, right? Cannot really go to market, need to go back. This is Fox. They make mountain bikes and parts for mountain bikes. What we want to show you here by looking at their website is, first and foremost, you can use 3D for everything, right? So everything on this website was made in 3D. It's not just these spokes you can see here, or these forks, I should say. It's also their technical documentation, their manuals, their support videos. All of that can be done from a single source of truth, which is the 3D data that you already have when you use CAD. However, there's also the fact that if you are now thinking, this all sounds interesting, that's a lot of money, that's a lot of time saved, right? But my company is too small, or this is way too complicated for us to do. That's not true, because they did not use 3D before 2021, and they are not a huge company. And in 2023, 2 years later, this is already their status. Everything switched to 3D. And Pepsi, the fourth and really, really amazing customer. Just look at those visuals, right? I'm feeling the urge to have a cold soft drink here right now, and that's thanks to the power of 3D. We really want to show you what is possible in 3D nowadays. With that, let's go over to Kim. Thank you.
So one of the things that we wanted to share here is kind of the opportunity to really become more productive, more efficient in the process of creating, consumer or B2B content of products. But it's also about, potentially moving away from photography. It's very, very expensive to run studio photography, whether you do it yourself or you use agencies. It's pretty slow. It requires, the product to be there, to be put in the studio, set up everything. And all of that can really be, a digital process. But using these technology also holds the opportunity to create something that is more exciting, more unique, more engaging, more immersive than just what you already do. And often, depending on the products that you manufacture or resell, the way that we buy as consumers or as B2B buyers, we really want to have a good, accurate understanding of the product before we buy it. We want to explore it, and we can use the technology to do that. And does it matter? We took some of the numbers here. It's from relatively credible sources. It's from Forrester, Shopify, and they indicate pretty clearly that if you provide these, more expensive or more extensive and rich experiences, it actually means that you're more likely to put the product in your basket. It converts better. Potentially also, if you provide a better experience, you can actually increase price. It impacts, price sensitivity. But not only that, with one of the, organizations that we talked to actually, met them today. They are also looking into this to enhance the post-buying experience. So what does that mean? For them, it's a complex product. They have all of the right information in the PIM. It's nicely served in, order confirmations. But if the picture, if the illustration is not accurate, if it doesn't represent that product because it's just a family image, it creates, concerns down the road. And in fact, if they're just looking at it and say, hey, it doesn't have that, marking that I'm looking for, and I know that if it had that marking, it's the right product, it creates, customer support, it creates post-purchase friction. So creating that rich experience really, impacts also on the top line, on the revenue. So if you look at how many organizations currently using 3D content, it's actually very few. It's the data we could find is 3%, and that holds, I think, a tremendous opportunity for organizations that embrace this opportunity. It's so difficult in many market spaces today to differentiate, to stand out from competition. There are so many choices. There's so much rivalry out there. There's so many options. So this is an opportunity to potentially stand out, early in the buying process and provide, better experiences. And if that can help, on revenue drivers, I think it's a really interesting value proposition. One of the customers that we work with do a blender, it's a kitchen appliance, just for switching out from photography to rendered images, and changing nothing else, their revenue and conversion increased 20%, just for having that sleekness of product representations on their website. That was just their experience. But why hasn't more, you say, if that is really that opportunity, why haven't more embraced that? Why are more not doing it? Is it because of technology? Are you missing out on the tools? Is it organizational silos? Is it old habits? Potentially it's a mix of all of those, to be honest. We personally believe that one of the issues is that data here are separated in silos. I think many of you are maybe the PIM queens and kings, as we've talked about. So you get the data from manufacturing the product data, and you need to enrich it and prepare it for showcasing products on the digital shelf. At the same time, the visuals or the representation of the products actually exist in your organization, or very likely exist, but it's not accessible to you. It isn't leveraged. So that's really what we want to dive in now. What is the data that you should be looking for, and how can you build on that data? So over to you, Jan.
Thank you very much, Kim. The digital twin. I'm sure many of you have heard of the digital twin. I want to make it right and clear from the beginning. Let's cut away the hype. It's one of those words that is maybe overused. But why we're talking about it here is because there is a lot of meaning here. There's a lot of sense. So forget about the hype. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty and understand how the digital twin works and why it is a really important idea. If you think about objects around you, we have a bicycle helmet here. This is an example we made. But be it your coffee machine or your car, it doesn't matter. All of the objects around you, there's a very high chance that this product existed digitally before it became a reality. This is exactly the 3D asset we were talking about earlier, right? So you have your product information, you create a digital version of your product, and then you have a physical instance of your product. When these two are not just copies, that is to say, this is loosely like that. So the car in reality is a bit different because of different materials, different shapes or something. Well, if it is actually exactly the same, then we talk about a digital twin. That's all there is to it. It's a really simple, complex subject. It's really nothing more than that. What is interesting, much more so, is why that makes sense. Why should you have a digital twin? What do you get from it? Well, here's one example. Think about all the variations that you can have for your product. From something like a coffee machine that can be bought in 10 different colors and with 3 different sizes for the water container, to a car with, if you try to buy a car today, chances are there's thousands of options available, seemingly at least, right? How many permutations, how many choices do you get? It explodes. So in the physical world, the physical instance here, if it's a prototype, for example, it's not feasible to produce all of those variations. Well, in the digital world, we can use configurations. Here you can see KeyShot running on the left, and you can see that our bicycle helmet, which comes with some different materials for the shell, some different shapes for the shell due to the cooling holes, different visors, and different colors, both for the visor, the strap, and the shell itself, right? That creates 300 variations. And here, with the digital twin, of course, you can just configure them. You can just go in, take a look at your helmet, and select whatever you want. You can preview all of these. You don't need 100,000 versions of a physical prototype. That is so expensive, and that you're simply not going to actually produce. That's one example. There's a lot more. This kind of shot. Try doing that with traditional photography. You better have the budget of the next Star Wars movie, right? No, but in 3D, you have a lot of options. Your creativity is not bound to the limits of the actual world, right? You can take all the components and just click on a button to make them explode. And there you have a really cool shot. You can use this for marketing, but you could also use this for technical documentation, for your manual, for assembly instructions, and so on and so forth. Right? Very, very useful to have that option and have it for free, right? Because it's all the digital twin, so it's all correct, it's a single source of truth, and it is the CAD data that you already have. Yeah, and if that's not enough, let's go into VR. This is KeyVR running. Here you can not only get an impression of the actual shape of your virtual or digital twin, but you can even try it on. This is us trying on the helmet. And we know it's very difficult to, by the way, communicate this to you. You really need to try it. If you have tried VR already, you are one of the ones that know how realistic this is. It does not translate to this presentation, but it's really, really important to make clear to you that with this kind of technology that actually accumulates together right now, there is a lot you can do in the digital world. By the way, an important aspect here is also the real scale of your digital twin. When you don't have a physical object yet, what can you do with a digital twin? Well, you can make a beautiful photo, right? A rendering, as it's called, an image, and you can put that on a huge screen like the one behind us. The problem is, it's not really the right scale. And even if it was the right scale, like a 1-to-1 scale, it is difficult to judge how that scale feels. So if you make a car, does it feel bulky? Does it feel sporty? Right? These things are important in the review process, the approval process that I mentioned for the company Speedo, right? From that example. So with VR, that is one of those really incredible advantages of that technology. You can simply get that real-life impression of how the object doesn't just look, but how it feels. Does it come across as slim? Does it come across as bulky? Is that what we're doing? So very important that you can do this with your digital twin. It's not limited to a flat screen. A lot of this now has been what the state of today is, but we also want to look further. I'm sure some of you can imagine what's coming on the next slide. AI. So automated product content and artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI. How can you combine AI technology with your now 3D embraced product pipeline? Well, with the digital twin, we believe it is best to take your real product, right, that digital twin. Don't generate that with AI, right? You're never going to get what you actually need. No, combine the real data and put it in an AI-generated context. What you can see here is that on the right side, those are that digital twin, that real product, combined with an AI-generated backdrop, right? And it fits right in. The AI is incredible at really getting the most out of your product. And you basically clicked a button for this. Right? So you have a complete branding, a complete marketing campaign here ready with visual assets in no time because you did not rely on photos. No, you have a 3D asset, your 3D asset, your correct 3D asset that is just waiting to be empowered by artificial intelligence. And with that, I will send it over to you, Kim. Close it out.
Thank you. So this was kind of taking through how this can really help, make it more productive, what you already do, but also use this technology to really provide, more unique experiences or product experiences. And it goes for, what goes on websites, but it also goes on packaging and all sorts of other stuff that you do. But let's move on to the next one. So if we look at this from a company perspective, it starts with design, it goes into manufacturing, you go through, sales and marketing and make your products available. And many of you kind of sits really there in the intersection between, the manufacturing, design, manufacturing side of the business on the one side, and on the other side, the sales and marketing. You make sure that the data, the product information are correct. There's a lot of you that are the PIM kings and queens. There may be also some DAM kings and queens out there, because DAM really does, a similar or a related thing. It just manages rich media content rather than the textual content, and that's where the DAM and the PIM category really plays well, and where we play really well with inriver. What we believe is an opportunity here is really to help you automate that process, to really help you leverage that digital twin, that data that you already have, but is inevitably, it is going to be created through the design and manufacturing process. So it just sits there, but isn't leveraged very often to a scale where we can help you drive more efficiencies and better product experiences, which is really our vision. So we hope all of that was inspirational to you. Hope you got an idea and maybe urged you to look more into this. Otherwise, we'd like to thank you for listening in, and that's it for us.